Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. You can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating if you don't know anything about it, and I do not believe in making people feel stupid or silly or shamed for not knowing things, and so I like to make myself available to answer people's questions about politics. And you don't got to worry about any judgments or ridicules or, debates or anything. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was a little upset by sometimes people would treat me like I was dumb for asking certain questions just because I didn't know things yet. And so I don't believe in making people feel that way. So now I make myself available where anybody can ask me anything about politics and they don't got to worry about being judged. They don't got to worry about, me thinking that they're stupid or whatever. They're not going to get teased for not knowing things. It is just going to be some good faith answers to all your good faith questions. It's the Rocketeer over on Twitch. Good to see you. Happy morning to you as well. If you got any questions about politics, put them in the chat. I'm here to answer all of your good faith questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no debating. There's no judgment. You don't got to worry about, oh, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of squishy cuck libtard, or if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA fanatic. There's no judgments here. It is just good faith answers to all good faith questions about politics. It can be as complicated or as simple as you like. It can be something about our current political moment. That tends to be what people want to ask about the most. But it can be simpler than that. Like, what's the filibuster? What are the three branches of government? That sort of thing. Pink David Gilmore says, why we have a king? Well, we have a king because the American people, for some reason, did not see the signs that Trump wanted to be a king. They did not see the signs that the Republican Party was going to go along with Trump trying to become a king. The Republican Party is fully corrupted by the MAGA wing, and they are not going to stand up to Trump no matter what he does. So there you go. What's up, lovely Renee? Good to see you again. It's the Rocketeer over on Twitch. What is a good resource to find what your particular representatives are up to with their daily schedules, such as their votes? That is actually a really good question. It's the Rocketeer. I'm not sure about that. I know how to look up, bills that are currently, in process, and you can see who has, signed on to them. But I'm not 100% sure about that. I think my best guess would be to get in touch with their office and see if they post those updates anywhere. And if not, maybe encouraging them to do so. Sam, what do you think about Elon saying that we need to adapt so we can pay off our deficit? I think that's rich, coming from a guy who's $44 billion in debt for buying Twitter and then fucking ruining all the value. I think it's totally fucking rich that the way that he thinks we're going to do that is by cutting programs that poor people need, which is like 0.1% of our budget, and instead of, massive contracts like he gets for SpaceX and for Tesla and shit like that. So yeah, he's going to be championing tax cuts for the top 1%, which is going to add like $1 trillion more to our deficit. But he's going to say, oh, the way that we're going to make that up is by cutting Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and getting rid of agencies like, USAID or the Consumer Financial Protection Board that protects the little guy, So yeah, he can miss me with that shit. He's a fucking liar. All right, let's see here. Pink David Gilmore says they're causing more debt, but they all cause debt, some more than others, but they all have. But Republicans are the only ones that make a big stink about the debt, but then they run it up. I feel like the Democratic Party is at least open-minded about needing to increase the debt for this or that. And, as far as presidents who have done the most to bring down the debt, I'm pretty sure in aggregate it's Democratic presidents, at least for like the last 50 years or so. Let's see here. Like I said, some more than others. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see here. All right. So, yeah. if anybody's got a question, you can leave it in the chat and I will do my best to give you a good answer. There is no such thing as a dumb question, and I do not believe in making fun of people for not knowing things. If you ask me a question that makes it seem like you are a Republican, I'm not going to yell at you. If you ask a question that makes it seem like you're a Democrat, I'm not going to yell at you. I don't do debates. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions. Lil Bird says red or blue? Blue. And you said why. The answer to that question is like hours long. But if you ask me like a specific issue, I can tell you why I think Democrats are better on that issue. Pink David Gilmore says, is Biden as corrupt as MAGA says? No, not even fucking close. Beef Girl 3 says, are we going to war? That's a really good question. Here's what I can tell you. I don't know if we're going to go to war, but here's what I can tell you. That people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they want chaos and they want there to be less peace around the globe, because when we have more enemies, when we have to treat our neighbors like Canada and Mexico like they are threats, then it gives the authoritarian government more leeway to do the illegal things that they want to be doing. You know, it's easier for them to declare martial law if we are suddenly in, you know, a hot war with Canada and Mexico and Europe and NATO and you know, the European Union and shit like that. Sergio Simon says, 4 years of stupidity and Ness, and you're proud of it. No, Sergio. The 4 years of the Biden administration had some really good legislation in it. You know, I would point you towards the things that Trump says if you're looking for evidence of stupidity, because it's all over there, you know. Z says, me and my friends don't tolerate it anymore. We just attack them. Attack who? I don't think you should attack anybody. Kathy says, thank you, President Trump and Elon. So I don't care if you have different opinions than me, so long as you ask a question. But if you just put things like that, you're going to get blocked, guys. Alrighty. Let's see here. All right, Lil Bird says, immigration issues. All right, here's why I think Democrats are better on immigration than Republicans. So what Republicans do is they don't attack the root of the problem. They just go towards enforcement. And so they keep on increasing the budget for, you know, border guards and border security and a border wall, all things that have been proven to not address the actual issue. And during the Biden administration, Democrats and Republicans worked on a bill together to try to address the increase in border crossings and immigration that was happening. And, you know, they worked on it together. It was a compromise bill, which is exactly what everybody says. They want the parties to work together and not just yell at each other. And they were all set to pass it because the American people said that immigration is a big issue to them and they want the government to do something about it. And then Trump called up the Republicans in the Senate and said, don't vote for the bill that you just worked on, that you just wrote, that you got more concessions for than the Democrats did, because I want to run on immigration as an issue in the upcoming election. That to me says you have zero credibility on the issue of immigration. If you'd rather keep it a problem than address the problem just for political gain, then you have zero credibility on this issue. Additionally, the ways that they try to address illegal immigration are by cutting off avenues of legal immigration. Right now, just based on Trump's executive orders, it is almost impossible for somebody who isn't rich to legally immigrate to the United States. So he essentially just gave more power to the cartels and increased illegal immigration because he cut off avenues for people who are trying to do it the right way, which is what the right is always yelling about. Like, just do it the right way. We don't care if you come, just do it the right way. Additionally, you got people who were legally seeking asylum during the first Trump administration who were separated from their children, which is, you know, barbaric and draconic and everything, but that's not even the big problem. The big problem is then they lost the parents. They separated the children, and not separated like you go in this building, you can go in this building, like you go to New Mexico and you go to Maine. And then they deported the parents, kept the children, and now they can't find the parents. So there were, thousands of children who were going through PTSD from being separated from their parents, ripped from their parents' arms as they're both crying and screaming and losing their minds. And, you know, they get put in these basically internment camps where they're being, fed porridge 3 meals a day like they're fucking Oliver Twist. And, they're crowded into these facilities. They have nowhere to go. They know nobody in this country. They don't know the language. They're completely lost and alone. and then they lose their parents. The government loses their parents. And if you watch the documentary on this, it's not really clear if that's just based on incompetence or if they wanted to be cruel, like on purpose. So then the Biden administration comes in, and they formed a task force to try to reunite those children with their parents. And they did a really good job. They got the number of children whose parents we couldn't find down to like a little over 1,000. And then Trump got into office and disbanded that group. So all he did, Trump, was create a group of 1,000 plus children with PTSD, and now they're orphans in America. So great fucking job, guys. And now the guy that he put in charge of immigration, his border czar, Tom Human, who his name sounds like he's a robot trying to convince people that he's a person, he's saying that he wants to do that again. He wants to do the exact same thing again, you know? So there you go. What they do doesn't work, and it hurts people. So that's the reason. All right, I am Knwall says, Trump is your daddy now. That is a very weird thing to say, my man. And I block people for saying weird things like that. Gregory Mullen says 80,000 kids lost under Biden. So that's misinformation, Gregory. I don't know if you knew that it was misinformation, but it is. Mercil says, just because you don't like what you hear means it's a lie. You wanted this. Admit it. I did not want this. Gregory Mullen misspelled liar, so I know that you are not here in good faith. Fantastic. You're out of here. Alrighty. Let's see here. Sam G. Prifogel says, do you like Trump? No, I do not. Isaac says, and your information is accurate. My information is very accurate. I read the news from multiple sources, and I've done a pretty good job of figuring out who the liars are and recognizing that if they're saying something, then it's probably false. Turk says, had a civil war started? Not in America, not yet. Dan Ladd says, what source? What source on what? Brendan says, border crossings are down almost 100% since Trump took office. Had nothing to do with a bill, LOL. Brendan, I find that data point to be extremely suspect. I doubt that it is accurate. Beach Bay 87 says, can you talk about how Elon Musk is saying he found people 151 years old on Social Security? Yeah, so that has been disproven already. That has been completely debunked. What you need to recognize is that everything that Trump is saying and MAGA is saying and Elon Musk and Doge are saying is a lie and is bullshit. They have been caught in multiple lies already, so it's just easier to assume that they're lying or that they're inflating their numbers or whatever, because again, we've caught them like dozens of times already. That one specifically, I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw some coder saying that the reason why he thinks that is because he didn't know how to read the coding language that the data was in, and it said like it didn't like register the year or something. Like, I'm not a coder, so I don't know, but that's what they said. But again, that has already been has already been disproven, Beach Bay, so we know that that's not accurate. Krupp says, you do a lot of assuming. No, I don't. I do shorthand. You know, if somebody tells me 1,000 lies, then I can assume that the next thing they're going to say is a lie as well. Lil Bird says, are you for the tariffs Trump has implemented? No, they're not really being done in a smart way. There's a smart way to do tariffs where they actually have, a point. And then there's a dumb way to do it, which is just raising costs for Americans and cutting us out of global trade. So we're going to be left behind. Other countries are going to start accelerating their economies as they're trading with each other, and our economy is going to stagnate. Farmers are not going to be able to sell as much of their produce. It's just going to be bad for Americans, and it's not going to have the effect that he wants it to have. Trip Sitter says, I love Trump, but the vampires getting Social Security was a coding error. Joe Rogan confirmed it. Why do you like Trump? Trump's sitter. That is a very disturbing thing for me to hear. Me and my pack says, tell me who paid Trump in crypto right before he became president. I don't know, but I'm sure he did. Crypto, one of the things that crypto is great for is money laundering. Gladys Torres says, not to mention the light bill and the gas bill that's going to go sky high. Hard times are coming. Yeah, that's true. Leida says impeachment. Yeah, if you want to impeach Donald Trump, then you got to vote for Democrats, because the Republican Party is not ever going to impeach Trump, even if he blatantly violates the law. And we know that because he has blatantly violated the law, and they still have not impeached him. Patrick Kelly says, this guy hardly disagrees with any the Democrats do. That's why I don't find him credible. I disagree with a lot of things that the Democrats do. Ask me about it, my man. AB says, what do you think is the biggest problem that the country faces other than Trump? I think misinformation and propaganda. If somebody reads the news, they vote for Democratic politicians by a factor of something like 80%. So what we needed, though, the reason why we lost the last election is because most Americans get their news off of social media, and social media is the fucking Wild West. If they did post-election polling with swing state voters, and they found that upwards of 60% of the voters had a misleading belief about the Harris campaign that they got off of social media. Additionally, there were 8 million people who voted in 2020 who did not vote in 2024 because misinformation convinced them that that was the move. Misinformation like both parties are the same. Misinformation like if you vote, you're complicit in a corrupt system. Misinformation like voting doesn't do anything. Misinformation like, insert misinformation that convinces people not to vote there. Let's see here. Jur says, how is that information? Let's see here. Both parties are not the same. Their platforms are vastly different, and the politicians are vastly different. Voting doesn't do anything is a lie because people voted for Obama, and now insurance companies can't kick you off of insurance for having pre-existing conditions. Then people voted for Trump, and now women in certain states are dying because they can't get life-saving medical care. So yeah, elections have consequences. Let's see here. Tonja Rensha says Facebook now has bot accounts. I'm sure they've always had bot accounts. Slayer Brick says misinformation is huge and goes both ways. Slayer Bricks, that is inaccurate. Misinformation, it helps Republican candidates more than it helps Democratic candidates for a bunch of reasons. The Republican base tends to be less educated than the Democratic base. That doesn't mean they're stupid, and that doesn't mean that they're more gullible than the left-wing base. It just means that they are more prone to believing conspiracy theories and things that they find on social media, which means that the Republican Party is less held accountable for saying things that are inaccurate. So, yeah, misinformation. And in addition, the platforms themselves, the social media platforms, they're owned by billionaires who are incentivized to help Republicans get elected because Republicans will cut regulations and make it so that they can all make a lot more money and have more power and have more market dominance and monopolize and shit like that. But additionally, social media platforms are really easy to manipulate if you have a lot of money and power and influence, which the Republican Party has more of because they are in league with the billionaire class. AB says, what do you think is the most effective way to get or force Trump out of office? I think voting and getting other people to vote. There were 85 million people in this country who didn't vote in the last election, and 30 million of them were registered, so they could have. They just chose to stay on the couch instead. I have a belief that is not borne out in any data whatsoever, that if we got those 85 million people to vote, if we got as close to 100% voter participation as we could in this country, then we would have a better country. That's just my personal belief. But saving that, convincing people to vote for Democrats and replacing Republicans in office with Democrats because they are the only ones who are going to hold Trump accountable for the illegal things that he does. Sam G. Priffvogel says, what examples a liar Trump? What examples Trump a liar? Give me 5 examples, I'll wait. Okay, Sam, I'll see if I can think of 5. But right now, it's sort of like a Three Stooges problem where so many examples come to your brain, it's kind of difficult to come up with them. It's like, name as many 5-letter words as you can think of, and sometimes they get all lost in your noodle. So I'll just give you a couple. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Let's see here. I'm going to bring down grocery prices on day 1. I'm going to stop the war in Ukraine on day 1. I'm going to stop the war in Gaza on day 1. Let's see here. And we don't know if it was Russian disinformation that was doing it. It could have just been some guy in his basement. So all those are all provable lies. The election was stolen. That is the lie that Trump knew he was lying about. There's tons. There's millions of these. Let's see here. Beautiful Letdown says they are eating cats and dogs. There you go. Maryam says, your thoughts on Trump and Israel taking over Palestine? So Netanyahu and Trump have had this agreement for a long time where Netanyahu was going to keep the war going during the Biden administration so that it would be politically damaging to Joe Biden. And in exchange, Trump would allow Netanyahu to do ethnic cleansing in Palestine, which is what the far right wing of Israeli politics wants. They don't give a shit about the people of Palestine. They just want to completely annex that territory and turn it all into Israel, and the people that live there can go fuck themselves. That's not all people that live in Israel. That's not all of Israeli politics, but that is the far right wing of Israeli politics, which is currently in charge of Israel under the Netanyahu administration. And in exchange for that, then Trump is saying, you got to let me build like a Trump casino there. That's why he's saying we're going to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East, is because he wants to put a golf course and a casino there, and that will be what he gets in exchange for letting Netanyahu do whatever the fuck he wants to the people of Palestine. Let's see here. Tyro Pillar says they're also eating the dogs. Yeah. Everybody remembered that one. I forgot that one. Sam, yeah, you're noticeably quiet since I mentioned all those lies, all those provable lies that you asked for. Rogue Mayhem says Biden could have cut support to Israel at any time. That is 100% true, Rogue Mayhem. And for anybody on here who is saying that I never complain about Democrats or yell at what the shit that Democrats do, here you go. All right. The Democratic Biden platform on Israel during the Biden administration was monstrous. We should have stopped sending money and weapons to Israel because they had been found to be guilty of war crimes. So there you go. But that does not change the fact that the Biden administration was better on this issue than the Trump administration because they were putting at least a little bit of pressure on Netanyahu to stop doing war crimes. Was it enough? No. Did I want them to do more? Yes. But better is better and worse is worse. Things can still be bad, but still be better than a worse option. Right now, Trump has resumed sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. The Biden administration had stopped. We had sanctioned illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. That was a Biden administration. I think that was a Biden administration move. Double check me on that. But Trump rescinded that, so now there are no sanctions on those people. Netanyahu now has a blank check to do whatever the fuck he wants. Say what you want about the Biden administration, he wasn't openly advocating for ethnically cleansing Palestine, which is what Trump is doing right now. So yeah, you can miss me with that. Democrats could have done that shit. Miriam says, not a fan of Biden's support to Israel, but you're 100% correct. Biden was better. Yeah, and Harris would have been even better than Biden, which is what the point I was making pre-election that, apparently 8 million people didn't give a shit about because they decided not to vote. What's your thoughts on us versus them in politics? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, but let me answer what I think is your question. So there are all of these us versus thems in American politics, but really the only enemy towards the 99% is the billionaire class and the Republican politicians who are in league with them. The billionaires will tell Democrats your enemy is Republican voters, but that's not your enemy. They'll tell Democratic voters, if you're like towards the center of the party, that your enemy is the progressive wing like AOC. Or if you're a progressive Democrat, they'll tell you your enemy is the centrist wing like Nancy Pelosi. If you're a Republican, they'll tell you that your enemy is Democratic voters or immigrants or trans kids or brown people or the poor. Anybody who's other than you, they will tell you is the enemy that is causing all of your problems. But again, it's not true. All of us 99%ers, we need to band together because the real enemy is the billionaires who have been waging a silent war on us for decades and convincing us that the problem is each other or immigrants or the poor or LGBTQ, So yeah, and here's the thing, this is the part of the diatribe that gets the most pushback is when I say, but it's the Republican Party that is in league with the billionaire class and not the Democratic Party, because then people go, well, there are Democrats, the billionaires love Democrats, and, blah, blah, blah. But, here's the thing, you got to dig into the data, the devil's in the details. 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republicans this past election cycle. Republicans do what billionaires want them to do way more than Democrats do what billionaires want them to do. Yeah, there are other pieces of evidence for that, but that's the gist of it. Let's see here. Kamala says, let me up, I have questions. No, I don't have people up. You can ask questions in the chat if you like. SRAC70 over on Twitch says, what do you think about the forced immigration in Europe and white Europeans getting blamed for slavery, even though all races were victims of slavery in history? I don't know what you mean by the forced immigration in Europe. I gotta be honest with you, SRAC, that sounds like right-wing propaganda. Here's the thing about right-wing propaganda is it's a fire hose, and it's diverse, and that is the intention. It is to give you too many targets to bat away, too many things that you have to disprove so that you're constantly debunking things and batting down lies. And so oftentimes there's narratives that even I haven't heard about that are prevalent on right-wing channels It's sort of like a shorthand that right-wingers have, and, the rest of us are just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's see here. Okay. Dr. Whalen says, name a Republican billionaire who is not Musk or the Koch brothers. There's lots of them. Let's see here. Peter Thiel, Vladimir Putin, the Saudis. Let's see here. And when I say Republican billionaire, what I mean is people who help the Republicans, people that donate heavily and give in-kind contributions like dark money and calling in bomb threats and, having bot farms that help them out and shit like that. Yeah, pretty much every billionaire, except for like George Soros, Bill Gates, let's see here. Warren Buffett, maybe you could say, is like left-leaning. Mark Cuban, you could say, is left-leaning, but that's like 5. And there's like over 1,000 billionaires just in America. Mario says, yeah, how about Beyonce helping Democrats, Jay-Z, and all the rich billionaire Hollywood freaks? Mario, it doesn't really seem like a nice thing to say to call them rich Hollywood freaks. But here's the thing. In Hollywood, there are so many fewer billionaires than there are just in the industry, So like people that do, fossil fuel shit and, tech billionaires and stuff like that. These people all help Republican candidates more than they help Democratic candidates. And you can find me your like single specifics like here and there. But the fact of the matter is that 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republican candidates. So none of the things that you are bringing up change that fact. The billionaires are in the bag for the Republican Party and vice versa. And if you don't believe me, just look at their platforms. The platform of the Republican Party is pro-billionaire. They're talking about cutting regulations that make it so that billionaires can't poison our air and our water and shit like that. They're talking about cutting regulations that make it so that billionaires can't monopolize industries and get full market share. And they're talking about cutting taxes so that these billionaires can buy their 10th mega golden yacht and shit like that. Where the Democratic Party was marching on the fucking picket lines with the unions. The Democratic Party is talking about taxing the rich so that we can use that money to help ease the burden of everybody else. The Democratic Party was talking about going after greedflation, which was just companies raising prices just because they could, and they could blame it on the Biden administration and inflation, So yeah, there's all the data that you need. And then you'll say, like, what about George Soros? And I'm like, yeah, okay, but everything I just said, Let's see here. Dr. Whalen says, unions only serve to enrich unions. That is factually inaccurate. Let's see here. SRAC says, I asked this to a right-wing person, and I am asking a left-wing person now. I want as many standpoints. Sorry for broken English, not native English-speaking country. Like I said, SRAC, it really does seem inaccurate, but I'll look into it, and if you come back tomorrow, I will see if I can have an answer for you, my man. H. Pez says, why are Republicans so adamant on supporting Israel? That's a really good question. So I think it's a multitude of factors. So there are people in the Republican Party who are Christian religious zealots, meaning like they're extremists and they have this belief in like bringing about Armageddon, which they say in like Revelations has something to do with like the state of Israel being like unified or something like that. And so there are real psychotic Christian billionaires who think that that is real and are supporting Israel because they think they're going to bring about this apocalypse that's going to bring, their ascension into heaven and, peace on earth and shit like that. So that's like one group. There's another group that they view the Israeli population as being the best way of getting rid of the surrounding brown people in like Palestine and Iran and shit like that. Just like, hardcore racists. You got other people who just do it a little bit more demonstrably so that they can call Democrats like anti-Semites, which is a sting that really hurts the Democratic Party. They're trying to whittle away at the different areas that Democrats have advantages, like with marginalized groups like Jewish people, people of color, the LGBTQ community, like any chance that they can do to sort of like put a wedge in those demographics and siphon off some voters helps their cause immensely. Let's see here. Yeah, I think those are probably the main reasons that I would say. I think also that they're a little bit more hawkish in Israel, like depending on who is in power, like the Netanyahu Israeli government is extremely hostile towards their neighboring countries. And having that additional chaos and war is really good for the military-industrial complex, of which the Republican Party is heavily invested in them, doing great, and they want their Raytheon buddies to get big, expensive military contracts. And also, if there's chaos in that region, then it's easier for America to get a foothold, and, we can get our military in there and steal more of their resources and stuff like that. All right, let's see here. Chuck B. Cheese says, and AIPAC. Well, yes, AIPAC is an extreme right-wing organization that helps elect other extreme right-wing politicians here in America. Rogue Mayhem says, big pharma companies seem to like Democrats a lot. Big pharma companies also love Republicans a lot. I don't know what you're referring to, Rogue Mayhem. Like there's something, like for some reason Democrats have way more of a vibe with big pharma than Republicans do, but that is factually inaccurate. The Republican Party does tons of favors for big pharma. Democrats are the party of smart regulation to protect people and make sure that their medications are safe to take. And I think that if big pharma wants anybody to win elections, it's probably the Republican Party. Brennan says, why is there no left party in the United States? The Democrats are the left party. They might not be as left-wing as some left-wing parties in Europe. They might not be as left-wing as you want them to be left-wing, but they are the left-wing party here in America. GeoXXO says it's because Dems get discounts. What a silly opinion. I don't know what you mean by that. Miriam says, can you please educate us on the SAVE Act? Sure. I haven't dug fully into the SAVE Act yet, but from what I've read, the SAVE Act is a voter ID law that Republicans are trying to institute across the nation. Voter ID is essentially a voter suppression tactic. Republicans have admitted this. People will say it has something to do with election security. That is a lie. Republicans have admitted this, that this is a tactic that they use to win elections. We have all the data we need on this. There is almost no voter fraud in this country. There is so little that it does not sway elections when it happens. And when it does happen, it's usually people who are voting for Republican candidates that try to vote in multiple states at the same time and shit like that. So the real effect of voter ID laws is to try to keep people from voting by making it harder. In addition to making it so that everybody's got to have IDs now to go vote, and potentially multiple IDs to go vote, in the SAVE Act, there's also a thing that says that your last name has to be your name has to be identical on all of your supporting documents, which is difficult for women who've gotten married and have changed their name. So this could effectively decrease the, female voting population by millions, which is what Republicans want to do because women tend to vote for Democratic candidates more than men vote for Democratic candidates. Let's see here. Lemmy says MAGA consists of either the rich or uninformed. It would be hilarious, if not more concerning. Yeah, that's generally true. I worry about using the moniker uninformed because there are plenty of very misinformed Republicans. And also, I put this as a caveat because I'm here trying to build bridges. Republicans do not have a monopoly on getting tricked. There are plenty of Democrats who got tricked into not voting in the 2024 election or voting for Republicans because they thought that because they got tricked into thinking that Trump would be better for the people of Palestine. Let's see here. James Davis says, congrats, America. We are all female. Hey, from your lips to God's ears, but man. Spider-Man 824 says, how much of the 80 million on Medicaid voted for Trump? That's a really good question. I don't really know if that is. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know what the number is at all, Spider-Man. Brennan C23 says, Democrats pretend to work for the middle class. Republicans are oligarchs. Democrats actually do work for the middle class. I can tell you a dozen things that happened during the Biden administration that were for the benefit of the middle class and below. I can tell you a bunch of things that Democrats have done in history that have been for the benefit of the middle class and below and protecting the little guy from the big and powerful. Rogue Mayhem says, why didn't Kamala take a harder stance against Israel? She did. There were just some political things to take into account, and were I the person in charge of the Harris campaign, I would have told her to go even harder. But, she still would have been better than Biden, and she still would have been better than Trump, and so people still should have voted for her. Tor Lauer says MAGA from South Carolina. So that's not a question, Tor, which means you're going to get blocked. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but just actually ask a question and be part of the conversation. Let's see here. Brennan C23 says, why do Democrats kill Medicare for all then? Democrats didn't. Joe Lieberman killed it. Joe Lieberman is an independent. He is the single vote that the Democratic Party needed to pass the Affordable Care Act during the Obama administration. So yeah, Democrats don't unilaterally block Medicare for all from happening. It was just Joe Lieberman. And in order to pass the Affordable Care Act, which saved a bunch of people's lives, so it was definitely better than not having it, the compromise that the Obama administration made with Joe Lieberman was getting rid of the single-payer option. Let's see here. Some guy says, can Trump order all corrupt politicians to give all their money to the national debt? I mean, I'm sure he could demand it, but whether or not he can actually do anything about it, I think it's also, it will probably be a lie, what he's saying, because he is in league with the most corrupt politicians on the planet. He is the most corrupt politician on the planet. BB Fan says, are you up to speed on Trump's 2025 tax cuts? No tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, etc. So all of that information about the working class tax cuts that Trump is thinking about are all lies and bullshit. It is not in the actual draft of the tax plan that is being worked on in Congress right now. If you make less than $350,000 a year under the Republican Trump-Musk tax plan, your taxes are going up. It is only people that make like over $400,000 a year whose taxes are going down. It is a massive tax cut giveaway, trillion-dollar giveaway to the richest 1% in this country and the biggest corporations that exist. Jackie Chan the man says, why did 100%... sorry, there were a bunch of comments and I lost that one. Sorry, buddy. This guy is just spamming the comments, so that's a block. Congratulations. All right, let's see here. Don Pedro says, what are your thoughts on Trump blaming Ukraine for being invaded? I think it's two things. I think it's number one, he wants it to make sense that we're for some reason having Russia's back in this thing, even though they illegally invaded their neighboring country. He's trying to make it seem like Russia is the good guy so that it makes sense that we are no longer going to support Ukraine in this fight. But also I think it is, it's a lie. It's a blatant lie so that, Democrats they'll scream and shout their heads off about how it's a lie. And then the focus will be on whether or not we're sending money to help Ukraine instead of the other terrible things that Trump is doing to this country to consolidate power, to attack the media, to raise prices for regular Americans, to cut safety net programs that protect Americans from like labor violations and banks fucking people over and shit like that. Right now, they are mass firing veterans from the federal government, and they have defunded the Department of Veteran Affairs that tried to stop veterans from harming themselves. And unaliving themselves. So, yeah, all of that stuff is not going to be talked about because everybody is talking about whether or not what Trump said was completely fucking insane or just a little bit insane about, Ukraine being the one that started the war where they got invaded. It's also classic victim blaming, which is, part of the Republican ethos. 96 says, is impeachment even possible? Of course it's possible. We just have to vote for Democratic politicians because Republicans are in league with all of the illegal shit that Trump is doing right now. Elsa says, what could impeach Trump, or is he still untouchable? He 100% could still be impeached. The Supreme Court doesn't have shit to say about whether he's impeached. The Supreme Court only gets to say if he can be held legally liable for the things that he has done while in office. And if he gets impeached and is out of office, then they will help to fight to keep him out of jail. But it is up to Congress, the Senate, and the House to actually impeach him. And if we just vote for enough Democrats, we can impeach him a third time. And 100% he should be, I should say as well. James Davis says, Supreme Court said Trump is near immunity. Yes, from legal liability. They also put a little clause in there that says you're legally liable for things that you do that are official acts, which gives them cover. In case there's a Democratic president that does something that is legally dubious, then the Supreme Court can rule that that was not an official act. But if it's a Republican president that they want to be able to get away with crimes, then they can say, oh, well, those were official acts, and so he's immune for those. Lilypool says, is it possible to recover from the wealth distribution problem in the next presidential term? As far as like the time limit goes, that I don't know, but it is always possible to recover from this stuff if we vote for people that are going to address the problem. And Republican politicians are never going to address the problem because they are in league with the billionaire class. I gave my big list of evidence why I think that the Republicans are in league with the billionaire class. I forgot even that during the inauguration, Trump had billionaires behind him instead of Congress, which is not what usually happens. And additionally, he's got more billionaires in his administration than any administration in history. So yeah, there's a little bit more information for you. Amamama says, will we even have another legit election though? So a couple of things about that, Amamama. So number one is, yes, Republicans are going to try to do shady shit to make it so that the election is unfair. That is 100% an accurate fear that you have. They've done it before. They lie and cheat to win elections. They will 100% do it again. Now, what level they're able to get away with the Republican Congress, with the Supreme Court, with, blue states having, control over their electoral systems and shit like that, that's an open question. But here's the thing. We get to decide how effective that is. Because if we start saying to ourselves, like, they're just going to rig the election, like, who fucking gives a shit, that is going to disenfranchise people and demotivate them and think that it's useless and, they're not going to actually do the work to try to win these elections because they think the game is over. So it is my opinion that we have to all be operating under the assumption that these elections are going to be fair and free. And if anything happens to try to adjust that to make it less fair and free, then we need to raise fucking hell and protest and strike and boycott and do all this shit and fucking flood the phone lines and go to their fucking offices and demand that they change whatever it was that they did to try to make our elections unfair. Because the right to vote is a sacred right in this country, and we should not be acting as though losing it is like what are you gonna do kind of a thing. Matt Hart says, so do you think he's doing this so we don't know where all the money is, so it ends up missing? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, my man. Piece by Piece says, Tim Pool's sister is here with us now. Oh yeah, she was on my live a little while ago. Welcome back, Tim Pool's sister. I when you were here last time, I called them a real piece of shit. So I don't know if you're back because you're mad at me or you agree with me. Maddie says, can you explain Trump's oil drilling land protection plans, please? That I'm a little less down with the specifics of. I know that Trump has always been weirdly aggressively pro fossil fuels, even though they are dangerous and dirty and more expensive to use than green technology. And he believes that this is like culture war bait for his base, that for some reason they're like, yeah, oil, gas, coal, that's the shit, that's America, stuff like that. Let's see here. Nay62 says, how are you losing your right to vote? There are lots of ways that the Republican Party has suppressed the vote. They closed down polling locations in Democratic areas. They closed down DMVs so that it makes it harder for people to get the IDs that are necessary. Voter ID laws are a voter suppression tactic. They are also have purged voter rolls illegally of people that are active voters. You're only supposed to purge voter rolls when you find out that somebody's died or they have been inactive for like a number of elections. And there are thousands of people, I think like tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, who were illegally purged from the voter rolls in the 2024 election and other elections as well. There are also ballots that got thrown out because the signatures didn't match, and statistically, they were throwing out more ballots from Democratic areas than Republican areas. Isn't that interesting? I guess Democrats just have worse handwriting than Republicans do. And then there's also plans that they have going forward to institute things like the SAVE Act, which would require national voter ID and your name would have to be identical on every form of identification that you have, which would suppress the vote of women voters, which is what Republicans want because women tend to vote for Democrats more than they vote for Republicans. But thank you very much for your question. Shit My Pants says, hey, Jared, be honest. Are we cooked right now? We're not fully cooked, Shit My Pants, and I want to fight that narrative that we are fully cooked because that kind of defeatist ideology is playing into the hands of Trump and Musk and the billionaire class. They want you to think that it's game over so that you don't fight. It makes their job a lot easier. They want you to think that it's over, that we're fully cooked already. So fuck those guys and believe that it's not over. Believe that we can change. Have hope as a giant fuck you to Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the billionaire class. Like, you want me to think that all is lost? Well, you can suck my fucking butthole, you piece of shit. Like, that's the attitude that we should have. Let's see here. Suzanne says Dems are crushed. I don't know what you mean by that, Suzanne. So Biden had us in a war for years and years. Yeah, you're just doing misinformation here, Susie. You are out of here. Oh yeah, you got Trump as your profile picture. That's the best block I've done all day. Alrighty, let's see here. Moore says prediction: the Dems will decisively retake Congress in 2026. I worry about things that give people a false sense of security more. So I'm never going to tell people that it's in the bag. I always say act like the race is 50-50 and your work is the thing that's going to make the election go the way that you want it to go. So do the work. Imagine that the one voter you're going to convince is the one voter that we needed. BB Fan says, do you post political info on Facebook? No, I've completely deleted my Facebook. I'm moving towards deleting my Threads and Instagram account as well. It's useless over there on Facebook. Let's see here. Elvira says, I didn't realize finding government waste is fraud, and fraud is a bad thing, silly Democrats. Elvira, I see what you're doing here, and you're trying to, be mean so that I will yell at you. But here's the thing, Elvira. Everything that Musk and Doge say that they are finding is a lie. And it's all misinformation and propaganda. I am going to ask you to please get your news from a different source because they have been proven to be full of shit time and time again. Ari says, how do you feel about Trump's executive order on independent agencies and deciphering the laws for the executive branch? It's more of the power grab that he and Project 2025 have been planning on doing ever since they started running for this election. This is part of the authoritarians' playbook, is to remove all checks and balances and remove all, accountability and oversight so that you can do whatever you want with, no risk of negative consequences whatsoever. When Trump declares martial law, he wants to make sure that there's nobody in the government working at either the FBI or the Department of Defense or Congress or anybody who's going to stand up to him and say no. And, whether or not he's successful at that has to do with us. We're the only ones who can stop him, everybody. So I hope that everybody's down with doing some work because we're the only ones who can. Nobody's coming to save us, guys. Private industry is not going to save us. They are already bending the knee. The Republican Party is not going to save us. They are completely in league with Trump and what he's doing, or they're scared for their safety because Trump has, weaponized his followers to be violent towards anybody that stands up to him. The Democratic Party doesn't have the resources to fight this for us. The Justice Department is not going to save us. They are staffed by MAGA lunatics right now. So the only people that can 100% save us are us. Because the one advantage that we have that they don't is that there are a lot more of us than there are of them. So I hope that everybody's down with doing the work and getting out the vote and talking to people and making sure that they're getting their news off of legitimate sources and not just social media, and correcting any bullshit narratives that you hear and convincing people to vote for Democrats, because that's what's going to save us. Let's see here. Badger75 says, court dropped the ball. I mean, they didn't drop the ball. They threw the ball to the ground because the Supreme Court has been in the pocket of the Republican Party for a long time. Alyssa said, Mitch McConnell is going to fight until he retires or passes. He actually just announced that he's not seeking re-election. He probably needs to spend the rest of his life praying for forgiveness for whatever God he believes in. Cass says, everyone else is against me. Maybe then you are on the wrong side, buddy. Cass says, that's literally the Republican ideology. Is that what you're talking about, Cass? Are you with me, or are you saying that I'm doing that, Alex Johnson says, what do you consider reliable sources? So here's the thing, Alex Johnson. There's two metrics that I use for a reliable source. One is, do I hear similar things from different sources? So I read legacy media, I read centrist media, I check out progressive media, and I check out foreign media. And that is the way that I check, my vectors and see, is everything lining up? Is everything accurate here? That's number one. Number two is, I look at the people who I know have been lying, and I automatically think that they are lying. So the Republican Party told me climate change wasn't real, but I can look outside my window and see that it is real. So they're liars. The Republican Party is saying that trickle-down economics is going to be better for everybody, but it's not. We have worse income inequality now than we did during the Gilded Age, which is an age that was named for how bad the income inequality was. So yeah, trickle-down economics, it hasn't worked, it's not going to work, and they're still saying that it is going to work. So yeah, they're full of shit. I don't believe a fucking single thing they say. Donald Trump says fucking a million lies a day, so I can assume that everything he says is full of shit. Elon Musk says a whole bunch of fucking lies every single day, so I can trust that everything he says is completely full of shit. So there you go. Elvira 2060 says, I don't agree with you, but I respect your opinion just like you should respect mine. What opinion of yours do you think I should respect, Elvira? Let's see here. BB Fan says, what are examples of centrist media? Associated Press, CNN, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, things like that. Lori Carr says, what's the likelihood that Trump will appoint, replace 2 more Supreme Court justices? I think extremely likely. I think that Alito and Thomas, they got their payouts already. They are extremely happy to retire scot-free without having to worry about a Democratic administration coming in and forcing ethics regulations on them and, having them impeached and shit like that. So yeah, Alito and Thomas have been eyeing retirement for a long time. They got their bag secured, and they're going to get out of there ASAP. Rogue Mayhem says, I fear a strong political swing to the right if Dems don't change their political discourse. Here's the thing, Rogue Mayhem. Democratic politicians get yelled at no matter what they do. If they're too far to the left, they get yelled at. If they're too far to the right, they get yelled at. If they do too much, they get yelled at. If they do too little, they get yelled at. If they do anything, they get yelled at because they're like, you're doing the thing I want you to do, but you're not doing it correctly. The problem with a big tent is that there are a lot of factions that could be weaponized in order to create infighting, which is what billionaires like to do. They like to stoke fights between people within the Democratic Party so that nobody knows what the message can be. So, can the Democratic Party be better on things? Absolutely. But they are the better party by a lot. It's not even a close race. They're a way better party. And so I am not waiting for the Democratic Party to have the most perfect messaging that will unite everybody on the planet. Because number one, it's never going to happen because the billionaire class is going to pay for bots to poke holes in whatever it is. The Harris campaign put out all these Republicans that were backing her as opposed to the President Trump. And the reason why they did that was to say, look, these people don't agree with us, but they're saying that Trump is fucking insane and a fascist and loves Hitler shit. So you should vote for us because even these Republicans say that we're better. And the media sphere, the social media sphere, said that the reason why they were in league with these Republicans was because they were secretly Republicans themselves, and so Democrats shouldn't vote for them. So you see how no matter what they do, it gets reinterpreted to be the negative thing. No matter who you talk to, it's because they're too far to the left or they're too far to the right or whatever. Again, there's no such thing as the messaging that is going to make it so that social media and mainstream media and right-wing media finally gets behind the Democratic Party as being better. We have to recognize that they are better. We have to spread that message and convince people to vote for them because they are better. You don't have to wait for them to be perfect in order for them to be better. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Let's see here. Sam says, Democrats care for all. Yeah, that's relatively accurate. Little Sister says, oh no, I just lost your comments. Lilypool says, what is trickle-down economics? I'm pretty new to politics. I'm sorry if this is common sense. That's all right, Lilypool. That's what I'm here for. It's literally ask me anything about politics. And I love it when people ask me questions like that, as opposed to just yelling at me for being a cuck or whatever. So yeah, trickle-down economics, otherwise known as supply-side economics, is the economic theory that says that if we give the people at the top of the economic ladder more resources, they will spend those resources and that money will trickle down. So if you're a billionaire and you buy a boat, you just made some money for the boat salesman. Now that boat salesman goes out and buys a car, that guy just made some money for the car salesman. The car salesman goes to the grocery store and buys some groceries, he just made some money for the grocer, and it goes down, 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 down. So there's a bunch of reasons why this doesn't work that we could get into, but the shorthand is look around. We've been suffering under trickle-down economics since the Reagan administration made it hot again. We have been cutting taxes for the billionaire class and for giant corporations. We have been letting monopolization happen in service of trickle-down economics. And all that we have seen is income inequality get worse and worse and worse. And the rich have so much money, it is unfathomable. Like, you can't even imagine how much money they have. And the poor are struggling like they haven't before, and the middle class is smaller than they've ever been. I don't know anybody who is safe, who is comfortable right now because of how much money they make. Everybody is struggling right now. And that is the fault of the billionaire class, chopping up the tax codes so that they can stash their money in offshore accounts and shit like that. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Louis. I appreciate you being here. Ari says, thoughts on Trump's stance on Ukraine? Trump has been in the bag for authoritarians like Vladimir Putin for a really long time. He was always going to do this. I wish I had all this shit videotaped, because I was saying forever, like, he's going to fuck over Ukraine, like, I guarantee it. And I guess nobody believed me, because look at where we are. But yeah, he wants Russia to take over Ukraine because he wants to empower other authoritarians, because he wants to be an authoritarian. Him and his ilk want to go back to the world order that we had pre-World War II, where there were no alliances and there was no UN, and it was just only the strong survive, every man for himself. Big countries can invade little countries, and, the age of empire and all that shitty shit that's there. Let's see here. Okay. Only Living Boy in Kentucky, good to see you again. If I had $1 for every time someone called me a liberal cuck, I could fight MAGA financially. Yeah, it happens. It happens pretty regular. It's Kayla Snyder says, how can tariffs be done right and actually help a country? So I'm much more of an expert on how they're done wrong, because I have been digging into the way that Trump's tariffs have hurt America. But I did hear an interview with a financial expert who talked about this. Like, there are certain ways that other countries will try to cheat the global market to try to get a monopoly on certain things. Like, they'll try to buy all the lithium at an inflated price and then use their resources to sell it to other countries in order to make it so that they're the stop for lithium and shit like that. And so if you tariff countries like that, and if you get other countries to join you in those tariffs, then you can have a smart economic outcome. You can make that country pay a price for doing illegal market global tactics and shit like that. That is my B- understanding of that interview that I heard of. Let's see here. All right, things have calmed down a little bit, so now is a really good time to get your questions in. Let's see here. Matt Hart says, Dems have to work twice as hard because we pay our taxes, and Republicans too. They don't. We love USA. Again, you got to clean up your questions, Matt, because I don't think I've ever understood a thing that you've said so far. Let's see here. Little Sister says, the Dems need to take the I don't give a damn attitude like the Republicans. Maybe, Little Sister. Like, I kind of like it when people do that, but again, we are a big, diverse country. Like, I think part of the problem with the social media political narratives is that it creates this idea that everybody agrees with you politically, and if anybody doesn't, then they're just being dumb. Like, the Democrats are being so dumb for not doing the thing that you and your friends came up with, But what you discover when you dig into polling data is that people's political beliefs are extremely weird and diverse. In 2016, there was a group of people whose number one choice for president was Bernie Sanders, and their number two choice was Donald Trump. And it was like, those two people could not be more different. And a substantive argument could be made, and one that I believe in, that Hillary Clinton was a way better option than Donald Trump if you liked Bernie Sanders. Like, you were going to get more of what you wanted from a Bernie Sanders administration in a Clinton administration than the Trump administration. But people believe what they're going to believe, And so we have to give the fucking Democrat Party a break, because they're trying to appeal to everybody. They're trying to speak everybody's language. They're trying to be the kind of country that we want to be, multicultural, big-ass melting pot with all these different kinds of people. And so you're not going to get everything that you like, but maybe if we all fucking work together, we can have a country that at least respects all of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. All of that nonsense. All right, Inverted Mystic, back over on Twitch. Let's see here. The worst thing about Trump... is he's lowering taxes for the rich. I mean, come on, if you're going to do this shit, at least do like a blanket tax for everyone. Am I wrong? Inverted Mystic says Hillary Clinton was polarizing. I think people just didn't like her. On paper, she's the better candidate, but like, Americans are weird. Yeah, Hillary Clinton was the victim of a decades-long smear campaign by the right. When Bill Clinton got elected. She was interviewed saying that, she's not like a Susie Homemaker. And then the right took that and ran with it. And they have been trying to stop her from accumulating political power for a really long time. And it was extremely successful campaign. And it completely tainted the public's image of her. Now, I have problems with Hillary Clinton the same way that I have problems with lots of Democratic politicians. But again, they're still way, 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 way better. And as far as Trump cutting taxes for billionaires, are you surprised by this? This has been the move. This has been the Republicans' move ever since, Reagan. And, it's the one trick. It's the one club they have in their bag, that and culture war shit, So I don't know anybody's surprised. Let's see here. Lilypool says, why were so many people against Medicare for all was why I wanted Bernie. So that's a complicated question. There are people who believe that Medicare for all is worse because they look at the problems that happen in countries that have universal health care. They're like, oh, look at the wait times, look at the this, look at the that. There are other people, though, who will argue bad faith arguments about Medicare for all, like it's going to increase your taxes. And they say that, ignoring the fact that, but the money you save by not having to pay insurance premiums and shit like that more than makes up for the extra tax money that you would have to spend. They'll say things like, do you really want to be subsidizing the health care of some unemployed, illegal immigrant, when the reality is that person, is going to benefit even if somebody else, that they don't like is going to benefit as well. And then there are people who think that it's just logistically difficult. There are plenty of well-meaning Democratic politicians who are like, it will be really hard and expensive to transition this country into a universal healthcare model. And they're right about that, but we should still do it. It's worth it doing hard things because then you'll be better afterwards, the first day that you go to the gym is hard, but then it gets easier every day after that and it's better in the long run, and then some people are, paid to pretend that Medicare for all is worse by lobbyists from insurance companies and stuff like that. But if you're looking for the party that is more going to move us towards universal healthcare than not move us towards universal healthcare, that's the Democratic Party. Incrementalism, like these things happening a little bit at a time, or, at least not moving backwards, there's value to that as well. And we can change the politicians that are in power. If you don't think your representative or your senator is Medicare for all enough for you, then primary them. But you also got to be cool about it. If that candidate loses because there are more people in your state or in your district that wanted to have a more conservative approach to switching over to universal health care, then you can't sit there and go, well, I guess I'm not voting because fuck that, I'm not getting everything that I want. I'm not saying that's you, Lily. I'm just saying that I see a lot of that discourse on the internet. It's Kayla Snyder says, do you see yourself as utilitarian? I'm not really sure. I don't really truck with the specificity of all these different political labels. You can call me whatever you want. You can call me a progressive, a Democrat, a liberal, a leftist. I don't really care. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I know that there's a philosophical definition of utilitarian. I don't know if it's different than the political definition, but there you go. Dennis in Blood says, which agency was responsible for checks and balances before Doge? Did they fail? They didn't fail. I forget the name of it. I want to say it's the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, I think, but it definitely existed before Doge. Doge is not an actual government agency because it has not been appropriated by Congress. It is just something that Trump created out of thin air. So what they're doing is illegal, and they should not be being funded. The taxpayers are subsidizing this illegal operation from happening. And did they fail? They failed a little bit, because auditing a government that, governs over 330 million people is very difficult. If you listen to the Pod Save America, which are a bunch of people that worked for the Obama administration, they will tell you, we tried, guys, it's hard. And there are a lot of interests to try to balance. And they were saying, there is some value to going in there like a fucking, like a bull in a china shop, because, you kind of, you cut through a lot of the muck. of it. But the way that you get through that muck is you work with the people that are actually in there and have the expertise, as opposed to just firing everybody and ripping out the wire like a fucking monkey on cocaine. Let's see here. BB Fan says, given the various hills we include in our program, what 3 hills would you die on? What 3 hills would you die on? All right, let's see here. Voting is important. The internet is not real life. And this is the last one, the most important one. Republicans are worse than you think, and Democrats are better than you think. Those are the 3 hills that I would die on. Let's see here. I hope that answers your question, BB Fan. I can be more specific if you like. Let's see here. Sunshine Wildflower says, accountants do audits, not tech bros. Yeah, if you guys are really interested in this topic specifically, on the Chris Hayes podcast called Why Is This Happening, he just had on somebody talking about USAID, and they were really getting into the nuts and bolts of like what audits are for and what these agencies do and all the damage that Doge and Musk are currently doing right now. All right, so we're at about an hour. I'm going to do my outro, but I always do final questions after the outro, so please stick around. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for all the comments and all the gifts and all the likes and all the shares. I appreciate all the support that you guys can give me. It is your support and participation that makes it so that I can do these lives, and these lives are my favorite thing that I do. If you had a question that I was not able to get to because it got lost in the chat or whatever, my DMs are open, but also you can hit me up through my website, jarrettberenstein.com. That is the best place to get in touch with me. That is the most responsive responding that I do, is through my website. But, you can message me anywhere. If you want to support me, I appreciate it. You can do the free kind of support, like liking and sharing and telling all your friends how great of a streamer I am and how they should check me out and listen to everything that I say and do what I tell them to do. But if you can afford to do the financial kind of, if you want to do the financial kind of, I have a Patreon that you can join. I have one patron I am very hype about. He's the best. He or she, I actually don't know. And yeah, that's on my website as well, jarrettberenstein.com. You can also buy things from my store, jarrettberenstein.com/store, or you can send gifts here on TikTok, here on Twitch. I don't know if they can do that on YouTube, but I'm on YouTube as well. My normal streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I usually start earlier because I really like doing these, and I often will augment that with a Monday because I really like doing these. But I'm also a professional stand-up comedian. I am going on tour starting this Monday, and so my streaming schedule will be a little bit more up in the air. If you want to check on my schedule for stand-up and streaming, I am usually pretty good about updating my calendar on my website, jarrettberenstein.com. And yeah, if you want to come see me do stand-up, that is the place to go check that out. And lastly is my heartfelt plea for everybody to not be despondent and to not be cynical and to know that voting works, to be passionate about voting, to do the work of getting other people to vote and getting other people to vote for Democrats. Because if we all do the work, then nobody has to do all the work. Help me out. I'm a 45-year-old man. I'm fucking tired. I do my canvassing shifts and everything, but I don't have the kind of gas in the tank that other people do. So take some of this work off of my plate, guys, and help me do the work of getting people activated, of voting for better politicians over worse, of voting in special elections, in primary elections, in general elections, and reading, the actual news instead of just, getting the social media narratives that are all full of shit and designed to make you think that your enemy is other people in the 99% or immigrants or trans kids or that voting doesn't do anything or anything, shit like that. Help me fight these narratives, guys. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your loved ones, talk to your family, talk to your coworkers. That is the way that we do the best convincing, because I can go door to door and talk to a bunch of people who don't know me, but they don't fucking know me, so why would they believe me? Also, people sometimes can be very suspicious of Jewish people. So, there's limited effectiveness to what I am able to accomplish over here, y'all. So yeah, just do the work with me, everybody, please. There's great groups that are already doing this work. Indivisible, Run for Something, Vote Save America. Join them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And call your reps. Put pressure on them. Political pressure does work. Do the shit that we can do. Vote and protest and strike and boycott and organize. That is the power that we have. And nobody is coming to save us. We are the heroes that we have been waiting for. So yeah, let's do all the work. And let's take care of each other, right? No one lets go of anyone's hand. That's how you survive authoritarian That's how you survive authoritarian administrations. All right, let's get to some final questions here. Let's see here. Inverted Mystic says, why do so many people call it USAID instead of USAID, like a normal person? I don't know. I have only ever heard people refer to it as USAID. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. Let's see here. We need to call Democrat politicians and tell them to be more transparent and talk about their accomplishments instead of fear-mongering over Trump's. Inverted Mystic, I'm on the fence about that because, again, whatever Democrats say gets interpreted and fucked around with so that it makes it seem bad, Like they can, if they don't talk about Trump, then people yell at them for not talking about Trump. If they, they talk about economic policies and people say, you're talking over people's heads, If they say, look at what Trump's doing, they say, don't tell us what not to vote for, just tell us what to vote for. They get it from everywhere, from every angle. Whereas Republican politicians can go over to fucking Fox News or Breitbart or whatever and get a full body tongue bath anytime they want. Democratic politicians get it hard from everywhere. Progressive media, for as, hard as they go against Republican politicians, they call out Democratic politicians too for being bad when they are bad, Like, you will never hear a more impassioned criticism of the Biden administration's policies towards Palestine and Israel than on progressive media. So yeah, Democrats get tongue baths nowhere. So yeah. Let's see here. It's the Rocketeer because it's United States Agency for Internal Development. The acronym is correctly read as USAID instead of USAID. That makes sense, I guess. Let's see here. Inverted Mystic says 11 more followers and we about to pop off. I appreciate that, Inverted Mystic. All right, let's see here. Stephanie Snyder Carroll says, I need to know how to have an educated conversation with my MAGA husband. They say, meet people where they are. Start where you have common ideas and common goals. Can you at least agree that billionaires have too much and poor people have too little? Can you at least agree that it is weird that you have different ideas about what's going on in the world based on where you get your news? And start from there. Let's find the sources that we can both agree are unbiased. Let's find the people that we can both agree are trustworthy. Let's both agree on what's a lie, BB Fan says, do you have any easy website for contacting representatives? There's an app called 5 Calls where it automatically puts you in touch with all of your representatives, but you can literally just Google who are my representatives and it'll ask you to put in your zip code and it will give you a full fucking list. Let's see here. Neo Frills says, what do you think about an economic alliance between the US, Latin America, China, instead of US and EU? Why instead of? Why not all? Why can't we all just work together and get along? Dave619, fuck you, TikTok says, do you think Kamala Harris is going to run for California governor? I'm not really thinking about that. She can do whatever she wants. I am more focused on getting people to vote in the special elections and in 2026. BB Fan says, do you have that easy website for contacting representatives? Thanks. There's an app called 5 Phone Calls, and just Google who are my representatives if you want more specifics than that. Trixie and Noodle says, have you heard of People's Union USA, and if so, thoughts? I have not, but sounds pretty cool to me. Let's see here. Mad Cat Monkey says, thank you for all your passion and hard work. Also, your comedy is hilarious, and I wish you much success and happiness. Thank you, Mad Cat Monkey. And Flong Sauce Dragon, what's up? Good to see you again. Thank you. Oh, Tyro Pillar, you're Carmine? Oh, that's so great. You're the best, Tyro. Thank you for being here. Oh, yeah, that's great. It's really funny to read all these positive comments on either YouTube or Twitch because you guys on TikTok don't see it, so I can just be making things up. I can just be over here being like, you're the hottest dude I've ever fucking seen in my life. Oh my god, you're gonna make me blush over here on Twitch and YouTube. Good lord, I heard you're a sexual dynamo. My goodness. Oh, god, stop, guys, stop. All right, let's scroll up and get some of these other questions here. Let's see here. All right, yeah, looks like we've all kind of calmed down. Badger75 says, have you read The People's History of the U.S.? I did start it back when I was much younger, man, and I was not as politically activated as I am now. I should dive back into it, but I definitely have cracked it open, and I think there's really good information in there, Excellent. Good bit there. It's the Rocketeer. Good bit. All right, I'm going to get out of here, everybody, since things have definitely calmed down question-wise. We only got 90 people watching. So I'll see you tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And wish me luck, everybody. Have an excellent Thursday. And, do the work. Take care of each other. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.